Hi everyone, Dr. Kat here. I'm here with Dr. Brian Hutchinson in Fort Myers, Florida, and I wanted to share with you an update on my upper cervical instability journey, which many of you have been watching over the last year and a half. It's been quite an amazing development. I want to first of all start by saying about a year and a half ago, I started having really severe symptoms after getting kind of a weird infection when I was traveling. And these symptoms matched some of the symptoms I had had earlier in my life that they attributed to things like Lyme and stuff like that. But I'm like, this is so weird. I started not being able to feel my arms and my legs. And as you know, I'm running Primal Trust, like what in the heck just happened? And getting like almost like drop attacks. And I had some physical things happened at that same time and ended up, long story short, I was diagnosed with severe upper cervical instability that they had said was probably there for the last 20 years, but between having a massive flare of my body, it was like a post-COVID thing with some physical injury at the same time, that instability really reared its ugly head. And at the time they told me that because of the level of instability I had at C1, that I would need this procedure where they basically fuse the upper cervical, the upper cervical spine. And that procedure it's intense and even somewhat dangerous and very expensive. And so I refused that path. I'd known enough people with loose ligament issues, and I dealt with a lot of upper cervical instability with my clients that I was like, there's got to be another way. I don't know what the other way is yet, but instead of doing fusion or prolo or intense things, I took the route of I started with Atlas orthogonal chiropractic, which I've shared about publicly, and my eye exercises, and then of course nervous system regulation. Like, what part of this is because I'm working so much again, and I was traveling, I got COVID, I had physical injury happen. What can I do to support my body? So I spent a year on that path of just doing my eye exercises, gentle stabilization while waiting for another solution. And Brian came into my life, handful of months ago. And he was telling me about how he's doing this dry needling technique for people with upper cervical instability. And as you're describing it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. As many of you know, my background is I'm a physical therapist. I know a little bit about dry needling. I know about trigger point therapy, but I hadn't ever considered treating the tendons in my neck and my shoulder blade region to help to offload the tension that was happening to that upper cervical joint, and that it could be another route of creating stability other than the fusion or even the prolo. And so that's what led me to you.
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible that Dr. Kat, within the last 6 weeks since you came down here and we worked together for the better part of 1 week, I gave you a homework plan to start to rehabilitate your cervical spine curvature. And I just think it's been incredible, because we'll show the pictures here on where your curve was and 6 weeks later where it is. And pretty interesting is that you, just 2 days ago, if I can share, you were on a boat ride with your kids, and you guys were on spring break, and you went to the Everglades here in Florida, and it was a 4-hour boat ride that was turbulent and windy, and there were dolphins.
I was all over the place with my neck, and several months ago or a year ago, that would have just been like a lot, because I was really unstable. Yeah.
And you and I both have enough C1, C2 translation or upper cervical instability that we could be candidates for neurosurgical fusion, more regenerative medicine. And it's kind of interesting because right now, I think that you see it with your clients, and I especially see it a lot with people that I do consultations with or that are inquiring, can you help me? Are there other options besides fusion? Is that a lot of people think that if you have upper cervical instability, that it needs to be completely eliminated in order for you to start to express nervous system health again. And I would say from my experience personally, and also with Dr. Kat's results, and dozens of more people, that it's not true, that there are probably 3 or 4 steps that you can consider before do I need to get a deep ligamentous treatment? Do I need to get an upper cervical fusion? And I would start with Dr. Katz's program. I would start with nervous system regulation, brain retraining. What can you do right now at home that potentially can start to get your nervous system to have integrity? Dr. Katz's example is perfect, where she probably had upper cervical instability for 20 years, but was she symptomatic because of that? We don't know. She's had a long journey with her recovery, but many people that I see, they've had no injury in the last 2 years and they had no symptoms, and the symptoms begin. So it's a combination of things. It's usually that we're really stressed, we're not feeling safe with our nervous system, and the ligamentous and tendon degeneration becomes sympathetic dominant enough where I explain this, and I've already explained it, but I'll explain it again in a short, abbreviated version, is that when our tendons are a little bit worn out, they start to ingrow sympathetic nerves into the tendon, which takes the space of where good connective tissue should be. There's also blood vessels that grow into those tendons that are nociceptive or pain generators. So now, in an area that's supposed to be an anchor that provides stability in a dynamic or in a weight-bearing position, which your tendons are the predominant stability connective tissue in both prolonged weight-bearing and in dynamic positions. While you're moving, it's how strong and healthy are your tendons that express health. So people that are bouncing around on a boat or in a car, and they feel symptoms of dizziness, lightheadedness, nausea, loss of sensation like Dr. Kat had in parts of her arms and different positions, that it's not only ligamentous. And it's pretty interesting that the results we're seeing.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share about your journey?
I just want to say a lot of people in my program, especially, they'll come into my program, they're seeing lots of doctors because they have all these symptoms, and they'll often get this upper cervical instability diagnosis, and you'll write in just scared to death, like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do? They say, this is something I'll have to live with, and I'm going to need to fuse it and do all this prolo. And I just want to say, hold on a second, hold on, because that was what they had said to me. And thankfully, I had watched enough of you guys in my program with upper cervical instability go down multiple routes of healing. And not everybody's healing path is different. Sometimes people will completely change their diet, and it will change their ligamentous stability. It'll change the way that their body is operating. And I think that's amazing. Some of them will do a ton of nervous system work. Some of them will do prolo. Some of them will do chiropractic. For me, because it was so severe, I was looking for a solution to help truly offload the stress of these ligaments at C1. And every time I thought about prolo or surgery, I was just stopped. And so trust your instinct. If it's just driving more fear, it might not be the right solution for you at that time. And there's, like you said, there's so many other things you can do. I did very gentle adjustments. I did lots of gentle stabilization, and it got me to the point where my symptoms were pretty minimal as long as I didn't thrash around. And then you came into my life, and the deep tendon dry needling really optimized where I was at and got me to another level where I can be all over the place now, on this crazy boat ride. I'm going to Disney World tomorrow. We're going to do roller coasters. So,
yes, it's incredible.
I'm going to do roller coasters. They told me to never ride a bike again a year and a half ago. And I'm like, we'll see about that. But the point is, do not let these diagnoses become your death sentence, because this is where Dr. Hutchinson is creating a paradigm shift on how healing happens with the upper cervical spine. Just like we are creating a paradigm shift with how healing happens with Lyme and mold and autoimmune. These paradigm shifts are happening right now. When you step back and say, no, there's got to be a better solution that's more aligned for me, I believe those solutions will come to you. So I just want to say, we'll show my x-ray of how unstable I was, and even the change in my curvature of my cervical spine in just 6 weeks. He has this therapy that he does with these weights that you just wear. It's super easy, super gentle. You wear them just a few minutes a day, and it will slowly change the curvature of your spine. Whereas before I'd seen you, I had been working on my neck curve for over a year, doing a chiropractic method and putting my neck over something called a dental roll and certain exercises. And my neck curve did not change and was really disappointing. And so 6 weeks ago when I came here, I was kind of skeptical that my neck curve could change that quickly, but it has. And we're just getting, I'm just getting started with this. So it's really exciting. I'll say, personally, like my stability level as far as my neck feels so much better. And I know it's just going to continue to get better, especially if we just did a handful more dry needling treatments while I was here this time. Anyway, I just want to say I think that what you're doing is remarkable, and I think it's really hopeful, and I love that you understand the importance of the nervous system piece. You meet people where they're at. You're not giving them like crazy protocols that maybe they can't handle. There's a very sequenced route that you're taking people through. And so I think it's just a really safe method to consider the dry needling, to consider this weighted therapy and posture correction exercises, and that it doesn't need to be a whole scary pathway of tons of surgical procedures. And what about for people who maybe already have done some of those? Okay, we have a lot of people in my community who have done the prolo, have done the surgical procedures, and they still are symptomatic. What would you say about that?
Honestly, if you've done prolotherapy, you've already tightened some of your ligaments, you've had a C0, C2 fusion, there still is an incredible ability to express greater health. So I've had the privilege of working with probably about 10 or 12 individuals that have had a C0 to C2 fusion, and most of them still make a lot more progress post-surgery. There's very few times that you had a surgery that didn't resolve the symptoms and there's no further hope for you. That would be probably the exception to the rule, and the rule is that there's still a great potential to heal. So if the surgery stabilized C0 to C2, but you still have a symptom, it could be because there's something wrong in your lower neck, or you could be getting a bit of nerve and blood flow pathway blockage in the front of your neck. And if we can get your shoulder to hold itself in a different position where now those veins and arteries and nerves are not getting irritated, you may start to be like, wow, I can see clearer now. And now I don't get this heart palpitation, or my digestion is improving. So the importance of the upper cervical and really all of the connections between the heart and the brain when it comes to structural health are really significant when it comes to any kind of nervous system regulation work. If you have the major blood flow and nerve pathways in your neck that are getting irritated, it's going to be really hard to find that kind of place of balance and nervous system integrity, because the major circuitry is constantly getting irritated. So I would say that whether you've had prolo and you've still only improved somewhat, or you failed to respond, it could very well be that you have enough ligamentous stability in the 2 or the 3 millimeters is not even an issue. It's not a primary or a secondary. It's maybe just something that's anecdotal. Very often people say, wow, look, there's 3 millimeters of extra motion. That could be normal for you, meaning that that ligament's potentially slightly stretched, but the symptoms could be generated from something else. So from the sympathetic dominant tendons. And I think that people still, there are a couple papers that you can look online about sympathetic dominance and not being able to get into a parasympathetic state. And it's not always just something that you can do through, and when I say this, I say that most people are going to be able to nervous system retrain themselves into sympathetic and parasympathetic balance. But if you absolutely cannot, it's probably coming from one of your 4,000 tendons or a combination of them that start to become sympathetic dominant, especially between your head, your neck, your scapula, your clavicle, and your upper chest and arms, where your body cannot get out of fight or flight. So I think that's the big paradigm shift that we will see, is that the spinal curvature really matters, but when you're in one of these chronic debilitating conditions, there's often a component of the sympathetic dominance.
I just want to say, like, obviously I know how to do the nervous system work, and I know how to hack the nervous system into a parasympathetic state. And I had this upper cervical issue probably for a long time. And I saw that I was able to get my function back, from the Lyme, the mold, and even probably some of this to a certain degree. But like you guys will see in some of my videos, like over the years, like I will often like be holding my head while I'm teaching, and I have for years, because it's just like I get tired, especially if I've been teaching like an hour and a half class. And I didn't really know it was upper cervical instability for a long time. I just thought I was like tired, like I could just feel tired. Since having the dry needling, I'm not having to do that anymore. But even more interesting, like I know what parasympathetic feels like after getting the dry needling and also shutting off that chronic sympathetic structural feedback to my body. It is like, oh wow, that's next level calm, and so it's cool for me being a nervous system expert that I know how to, manually do that, but to have the feedback mechanisms of that sympathetic dominance also shut down or dampen, it feels amazing. It almost feels drugged, like compared, like, oh wow, this is like Valium. So I thought that was interesting that even me, who knows how to calm my system down after these treatments, it's like, it's just a next level. And I could see how some people who maybe in my program cannot get their system to calm down. They may have so much feedback going on because of the instability and the structure. A lot of people give me a hard time. They're like, well, I thought, now you're telling us to do structural work, Dr. Kat, and it's because our spine is our nervous system. Like, yes, I'm a nervous system expert, and the spine is a big part of it. Our posture, the feedback loop between our brain and our body goes to the spine. So it's all part of it. Optimizing it is important, and you're helping me do that and get to the next level so that I can talk even longer in class without holding my head.
Yes, and thank you for bringing up the point that even though you can manually hack into that parasympathetic, that as a result of the tendon dry needling and the curve correction we've done, that it's almost like a different level of that. The way that I recognize it in my own self, as being a chiropractor, I'm not as much of a brain retraining and nervous system regulation expert as you with the programs you've built. I mean, I'm taking your program now. I just started it recently, and it's really, really eye-opening to me. But as a chiropractor, I mean, we primarily work to bring integrity to the nervous system from a structural perspective. And for me, what I've noticed since I really started doing a lot of the tendon dry needling on myself, which I don't need to do anymore, I'm more in an optimization. I'll be like, wow, if I really push it and work 14 hours a day and I'm flying airplanes and I'm, working like crazy, that I'll get a little tight right here, or I'll get a little, so I'm just like in the optimizing stage. But what I notice is it's so much easier for me through any stress, any adversity, any challenge, to remain present and at peace and still be able to handle whatever's thrown at me. When before, even though I was still high functioning, at a certain level of stress, my body would really fight, and I would feel panicky, and I would, make decisions out of survival mechanism. And that decision-making process, when we're making a decision out of survival, is not always what's in our highest good. So the fact that I've been able to drop into a more balanced nervous system tone through the structural work and the mindset work, it's just really helped me to be able to make really good decisions, to be present for my work, for the people that I love, for my community. And so thank you for sharing that it's had a similar effect, just to bring you into an even more kind of centered state.
Yeah, I think this is the journey. It's like, at first we're here because we're in the thick of it. We're suffering, and we need to learn the skills just to get out of the suffering mode. And then then you get your life back. But then there's this optimization stage where, you're a busy entrepreneur, and I'm a busy entrepreneur, and I'm traveling, I'm going, and it's like, okay, how can I continue to get stronger, continue to have more resilience, continue to be able to get to that next level of expression that I thought was impossible for me. I mean, I'm sure when your neck was really messed up, it's like what you're doing now, it's just amazing. And so we're always on this journey of getting that highest level of expression so that we can continue to bring our gifts into the world and have fun. I want to go ride roller coasters. Like a year and a half ago, they're like, yeah, you'll never do that again. And I'm like, I'm going to just keep looking for another solution. So, so that's what it's like, and some people are like, oh, isn't that fixing yourself? I'm like, no, I have these goals that I want to achieve, because we have a thing about fixing is not an awesome thing to do. I have these goals that I want to achieve, and I want to continue to get stronger. Just because I'm getting older, I don't want to lose my function. I want to be able to live. And I think that when you look for solutions that are of like a higher frequency or a higher way of being, they come to you, versus a surgery just to be stable. That wasn't my solution. I'm like, no, I want to get all of my function back.
Yes.
I want to learn how to work with my body and understand it and help it so that I can live the life I truly love. That's my value system. And so my value didn't match the fusion surgery, and it didn't even match the Prolo at that time. And not that I'm against any of that, and maybe there's a day where I'll need Prolo. I don't know. It's not today though. So
yeah, that's a great point you brought up. And one of them, just to touch on, was that most people, there are some people that were born unwell. My brother was one of them. He had a hole in his heart, and since birth he had health issues. But more often, many of us that have experienced chronic illness and are on the pathway to recovery, we at one point did express health. So it's that we've lost our health, and so we're just restoring what we know that we've already had. And so I never lost the fact that I knew that I would return to healthy again when I was in my worst stage. And I think just knowing and envisioning that if you did have that health, it absolutely can be reclaimed. And while that being said, there's always a memory of a trauma or an injury or an illness, and it may come back to kind of tease you or to remind you that it was there. So you may get little glimpses of it returning. But I have to say that the ability of the nervous system to reclaim what it once had is just absolutely supreme. And I've seen people that were chronically ill for 10 years recover in months. I know Dr. Kat has. And another interesting point you brought up was about like fixing. I have to fix the problem. And so when we get into that mindset, we too often get narrow-minded when we're in survival mode on, well, the problem is that one bone is moving too much, so let's lock it down. But how does that always correlate with function? In some individuals, I've seen that the neurosurgical fusion, that the treatments that they got, they absolutely immediately improve the function. And there is a time that that's necessary. But there are probably 1 million people, because of our technologically fueled world and because of how stressed we are, news bombarding us, negativity in the news, people stress around us, difficult relationships, work demands, sitting like this all day, that we get the same symptoms that somebody that may need a neurosurgical fusion get. So as soon as we see that we have these symptoms of brain fog, of difficulty focusing, we can't hold our head up long, we're in a panic mode, we have head pressure, we get pulsing in our heart once in a while when we're stressed or when we move a certain way, we absolutely get led down this path that a couple of people are maybe wrongly saying that the only way to get better is to get this one thing done. And just really try to pause, like Dr. Kat said, and sit with it a little bit, because we're two perfect examples of people with significant or extreme cervical instability that are expressing life now on a very high level, and we want to inspire thousands and thousands more people to be able to reclaim their life and do it in a way that improves their function and with the least invasive method.
I just want to say that a year and a half ago when I got diagnosed with this, I remember thinking, why me at first? Because I'm like, I just recovered from the Lyme and the mold and all these things, and I'm now this like platform leader, and now I get this injury where I've got upper cervical instability and they're going to fuse me. And I was, almost went into this victim, like after everything I've been through, now this. But in that moment, the solution, the quick fix solution was the fusion with lots of Prolo. And I was like, I can't do that and like run this company. I can't do that. I can't do both of those things. So I'm just going to step back. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole, fix it now. I'm just gonna like, what's the most gentle thing to support me? I found an Atlas orthogonal. Okay, step one, just gentle support to get my baseline back up. I will look for a better solution that helps me return to health versus like, oh my gosh, you've got this thing, quick fix. That right there is your warning sign when it's like, you have to do this and this is a really bad problem. So once I got out of the victim mode, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wait until a better solution arises. I'm gonna get my function as high as possible with the things I know how to do, my eye exercises, nervous system work, eat well, gentle chiropractic posture, gentle strengthening. And when it's, I knew that a solution would come, and that's how it works, you guys. Like, there are higher and better solutions available. And so just stop when you go down that spiral rabbit hole of fear of like, wait, this means I'm trying to like fix it and solve it right now. It's like fix it or else. That's survival. Yeah. Pause and like, okay, what is my ultimate goal? I want to get back to this certain type of function. I want to look for higher and better solutions to express health. And when you change your energy around it, new solutions become available that were hidden before. Yeah. That is a huge principle of healing. So
that's a great point. And so a lot of people that are deep into this space of healing from chronic debilitating injury and illness, and in the structural world, there's a big movement around get a gentle, good alignment, by a chiropractor or an osteopath or potentially a really skilled physical therapist. And if that doesn't work, then you proceed to very invasive procedures. And they're skipping about 4 steps. So, the consensus still is that there's nothing in between. And we'll continue to share more amazing stories of healing of people that have just done nervous system brain retraining, which includes kind of a component of a functional neurology, eye movements, different kinds of really extensive things that you see Dr. Kat and her program guide you through, but also the structural importance of good spinal curvature and healthy tendons. And it's going to become more prevalent. There's a few big studies that have been published on PubMed about the ability of just using a needle with fenestration of a small acupuncture needle into tendon and how it creates an entire regenerative cascade. Your body, you have to realize I'm 38 and Dr. Kat has, is definitely, I don't know if you want to say.
I'm almost 50, I'm almost 48, so.
Yeah, and so, but Dr. Kat and I are entering like the middle of life, and many people will say, wow, you don't have stem cells left, and you don't have exosomes, and you don't have many platelets left. Mm-hmm. But we have literally gotten better from just stimulating connective tissue, and your body has the tools to bring that regenerative capacity. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's a time and a place for advanced stem cell injection procedures, but most people can heal just with what their body already has within it, and that's a really important point to make as well. So thank you, Dr. Kat, for sharing your story, and I'm just delighted to have you here and your kids who are here with us as well, and it's been a delight having the chance to help you, and I look forward to completing your program as well, and just to continue to inspire many more people on their journey towards reclaiming their health.
Thank you too. I think this whole instability situation is becoming so widespread and people are desperate for solutions. And I'm really excited to have found a solution that was so gentle and easy and nothing like the other route. So I'm really excited to share this with the world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And smile.
Yeah, just for the photo.
Okay, just a smile.
Hi.
Hello.
What camera are we looking at?
That one. Okay. Well, think
cheeseburgers.
About
Acai bowls.
Acai bowl.
Goji berries.